Hi, I'm Christine Herman of Herman's Quality Meat Shop in Newark, Delaware. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about this huge piece of meat called the drop loin of the animal. Are you ready? Okay, this is one big piece of meat. This is as we refer to it in our industry, the drop loin of the steer. And this particular section is the lower portion that butts up against the steer's hip, and the other end that I'm going to show you in a minute butts up against the rib. So give you an idea. And this piece actually is bigger when it comes into us. It has other pieces that are attached over here and a big piece of fat, and the beef kidney is also attached to that. So if you ever needed like kidney fat, that's where it comes from, or suet for your birds. It comes from this whole portion. And this guy is anywhere from 100 to 140 pounds, depending upon the size of the animal when it actually comes into us. And my meat cutters and I break it down and clean it up so it looks like this. So that's something quick. And now I'm going to flip it this way so you can see his spinal area is right here, his backbone, okay? And now I want to break it down a little bit for you and give you some hints as to what we're looking at. This front portion that you're seeing here is what we call the full cut sirloin. So let me back up a minute. This guy right here is your fillet, your beef tenderloin, and it runs the entire length all the way back. And I'm going to, after I give an explanation here, I'm going to show you some dissections of this piece to give you a better idea also of what it looks like on the inside. So this piece here, as I said, is your tenderloin, and it is very well protected, which is why it is called the tenderloin, because it is the most tender piece of muscle in the animal, because it is so protected, and it is the muscle that is least used, which is why it is so tender, and it comes from the loin, thus the name. So our full cut sirloin is right here, and you can see it has a variety of muscles, and each one of these little segments in here is a different muscle, here, here, and here. And this particular muscle right here, this portion here, is the beginning of the picanha, or the rump cap, if you've ever heard of that. And it travels all the way back to about here. And that is a very particularly special cut of meat that a lot of Brazilian restaurants enjoy, and I've done a video on that. And then over here is your tri-tip, and that is another piece that is very tender and delicious. So when you buy what we refer to as a full cut sirloin, and you get all of these different muscles, then you are getting to enjoy a lot of different flavors and textures, but that is why. And when we cut something like this, usually we cut minimum of 1 inch, sometimes up to 2 inches, depending upon the customer's choice. You're going to feed probably 5 people with 1 full steak. It's very economical, and as I said, you're going to get a variety of flavors from this particular piece. And what we do is we lightly trim the outside edge, clean it up for you, and we take out some of this fat right here, because certainly you don't want to be paying top dollar for a nice chunk of fat like that. However, you can also see the beautiful marbling in this. And that is what gives it the flavor also. Now I'm going to kind of pull this around and show you as we work our way down into this portion here. And again, I'm going to show you cross sections in just a moment, just to give you an idea. But you can see how the fillet is nice and big, as all of this here is this fillet. And then it tapers off down here till we get to what we call the strip end. And that's what the strip end looks like, and it's got maybe a smidgen of bone dust, which I'm going to clean off. And you can see how beautiful the marbling is on that. All of that little white stuff in there is marbling that makes it taste amazing. And here is your bone, which creates the T. And as it gets higher up into the fillet area, and you have your bigger fillet, this is your strip right here, your strip steak. You've got your little bit of fillet, and as it comes up and the bone gets bigger and that T gets more pronounced, the fillet gets bigger, and that's where your porterhouse steak is. So I'm going to set this guy aside and show you a cross section so you can see each one of those steaks cut individually, or how they would look if they were cut individually. Okay, so just give me a minute, please. All right, I am back, and I wanted to show you what we did here. So we've taken off from this portion here, the big sirloin end. We've cut it off because it's big, and I want to show you what it looks like on the inside. There's a couple things that I want to share with you. And then this is what we call the strip end, again, that smaller end. And I'm going to flip it. So these are cut into sections so you can see. But I want to flip this and show you the strip end. And if you can see how dry that is, and I have another piece that I want to share with you. And this is, you're going to say, oh, that is really gross, but it's actually really cool. And this is how you know that this is dry aged beef, because you can see how dry that is. And that means it has been drying in the open air refrigeration. And that's really important. However, you can see from here, once it's cut, how beautiful and marbled that is and how fresh and pink that is. Anyway, I just thought that was a note of interest. But you can see some of that aging right there. And that is where your strip steak starts. And I can cut it, but I'm going to leave this whole for the moment. And there is your strip steak right there in that section. And you can see this teeny tiny little bit of fillet is just starting to pronounce. And then as you go further into the center, you have this beautiful piece right here of strip steak. And you can see the little bit of fillet right there, but this beautiful piece of strip right in here. There's a teeny tiny piece of bone. There's no T-bone there yet. We haven't gotten to that, but we cut that right out, right off the bone, and that would be your strip steak. And here at our store, we wait for you to tell us how thick a steak you want. If you want it 1/2 inch or if you want it 2 inches, and we'll cut it for you. So there's that. Now, the next piece that comes right next to this side is this. And you can see, here's your T-bone coming in right here. And you can see the fillet is getting bigger and bigger. And that is going into your T-bone. And you can see that beautiful marbling that I was telling you about before. And I'm going to flip it around. And now you can see that the porterhouse is getting a nice big fillet. And that is what makes it so delicious as we work into the porterhouse from the T-bone. And this piece here is part of the picanha, and we call it the tail. And some people like it and some people don't. I think some people don't remember or realize or appreciate what that tail is. But that's kind of an old word anymore, because typically we just remove that. And oftentimes the picanha is pulled off the piece of meat and it's not even present. But here at our store, because we have that whole big piece of drop loin as I was showing you, we have it on there. So again, these two go right here. And now the porterhouse is getting bigger, which means the fillet is getting bigger and the strip is getting even more big and beautiful right here. You can see here's your porterhouse and here's your T-bone right in there, which is now what we call the porterhouse because it's so big and because that fillet is so big. And a little extra bit of information that I want to share with you that we have, again, because we cut the sirloin portion. So remember, these two go like that. And then there's that sirloin portion where the hip connects. And there's a fine line of about a good 3 inches or so of steak that we prefer not to sell as a porterhouse. And the reason why, and you might be thinking, I don't understand, because the fillet is big and the fillet itself is beautiful. However, there comes a vein. There's a little tidbit that you may not realize, but there's a vein that presents itself right here, right there. I don't know if you can see that. And you're probably looking at that saying, that doesn't look very pretty. But you can see how big and beautiful the fillet is, but look at the difference. You see how beautiful that T-bone sirloin portion is versus this? And it's all the same muscle because as you can see, by putting it together, that muscle just generates itself right from here to here. But there's, again, this vein. So if you're ever somewhere else and they're showing you or trying to sell you this piece of meat with this big, beautiful fillet, for sure, but there's a vein that runs through it, you want to think twice or remember to use your steak knife in a different way because that vein will be chewy. It will be hard to cut through, and it's something you want to be mindful of. At our store, we typically remove that section or cut to it and then cut after it and leave that for what we'll use for either steak kebabs or steak stir fry, and cut out that vein and remove it so that you still have nice pieces of meat to use, and we save the fillet. And that's what we do with it because we don't feel that that's top quality. So if you can see that and imagine it, now I'm going to put these back together and remind you that there's that whole other piece of the hip, which is the sirloin portion. And again, I'm going to flip it around so you can see it from this perspective. So there's your fillet. As you can see, it tapers down into the strip. And I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some ideas as to what to look for if you go into another store or when you come into our store and you order a steak. You can see better what it looks like, what you can expect, and how beautiful that marbling is, and how big the fillet is as well in your T-bone to your porterhouse. And we can always take the fillet out. We can always take it off the bone, and it's a strip steak. So basically from here to here can be all strip steaks if that's what you'd like. And we can just take the fillet out. Or in some circumstances, we'll just take the fillet out and just sell you the fillet if that's what we have available. So there's a lot of different ways to utilize the meat. But this is what a dry-aged piece of loin meat looks like versus in addition to the bigger piece that I showed you where I took off the sirloin portion. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something, and we hope that you will try one of these delicious steaks. Thank you. Okay, my kitchen tip today is a simple one, as I like to try and keep them all because being in the kitchen shouldn't be complicated. But we want to talk about your refrigerator. We talked in a previous video, hopefully you've seen, and if you haven't, maybe you want to look for it, about lining your shelves in your refrigerator to keep them clean, keep them neat, keep them from getting scratched if they're glass, make cleaning up a little easier if you have a spill. But anyway, I want to talk about organizing your refrigerator. We talked about organizing your freezer and labeling things and dating different items, but I have a tendency to think that many of us, and myself included, can get our refrigerators a little disorganized. And I just want to kind of put it out there that it's okay. It's your refrigerator. You do what you want with it. But if you just feel like you just need a little bit of semblance of order in the refrigerator, what can I do to make this better? A couple of quick tips. I like to use my doors for all my condiments in my jars so they don't slide around and I can see them. That's, to me, kind of a given. Lots of your shelves and drawers can be changed to accommodate bottles and soda bottles and milk and that kind of thing. So make that work for you. I don't like to lay my bottles down, especially, if it's whatever it is, I'm always afraid it might leak. So I don't like to do that. And we know that most every refrigerator has a produce drawer and a vegetable drawer. Utilize them. They're there for a reason. They're there to keep all the little things together, the onions and the broccoli and whatnot together, and it helps regulate the temperature. And I also want to recognize the fact that today's refrigerators are so much different than when they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. We had one big door for the refrigerator and one door for the freezer. Now we have side by sides and upside down and freezers are up top and freezers are on the bottom. So you have to work with what space you have, and I recognize that. But keep in mind that if you overstuff your refrigerator, things can freeze, especially if you're having company. And it's one of those things where you want to have everything in the refrigerator all at once so you don't have to grocery shop, but then you go to reach for the lettuce and it's wilted because it froze because you have so much stuff packed in there. You might be better to say, excuse me, I have to run to the grocery store to get something fresh, rather than jamming so much in there. Something to keep in mind. If you are one of those people that preps your food ahead of time, and I've talked about having like carrots clean, onions, celery, potatoes washed, garlic prepared. If you have all of those things prepared, labeled in your refrigerator in a certain spot, or maybe you have them, better yet, organized according to a meal. So maybe you're going to have stew one night. So you're going to have your stew meat, and you're going to have your chopped carrots, celery, onions, and potatoes all in one section with your green beans ready to go. And then another night you're going to have the chicken dish, and you're going to again have your carbohydrate with that as well as your vegetable. Maybe you coordinate it that way, or maybe you just put all your vegetables together so you just reach and grab. Whatever works for you, just try and think it through so that it's easy and it's convenient for you to not be spending time trying to find and digging. And I know it's in here, and I remember putting it in here, but I don't know where I put it. Try and keep it so that you can grab it and make it easy to know where everything is, so that it's not too disorganized. And remember, fresh is always best if you can, and just try and make your life simple and easy. So I hope that was just, if nothing else, just a little reminder of how to kind of make things a little better for you. So thanks, appreciate it. So we call this the portion of the drop loin. In this case, we actually call it the short loin because there's 3 pieces that are short, and the bigger piece, which is the full cut sirloin, as I mentioned earlier, has been removed. So you have your 3 beautiful steaks and your full cut sirloin. Remember, they're all tender, they're all delicious, they're all ready and waiting for you. Look for that beautiful marbling. Put it on the grill, pan fry it, grill it, broil it, whatever you'd like to do, but enjoy your sirloin steak, whether it's a T-bone, a porterhouse, strip steak, enjoy. Remember, become part of the Herman YouTube family, and like our page, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. Thank you very much. God bless you. Christine Herman.